Hi, friends, and welcome to Marvelous Friends, your home for all things Marvel Cinematic Universe and beyond. I'm Rhett, and today I'm going to be discussing the news about a Fantastic Four film coming very soon to the MCU. Well, soonish. Roll that credit. Late on June 5th, the interwebs were all abuzz because the news had skyrocketed to the front that the Fantastic Four were coming to the MCU very soon. Again, soonish. This coming initially from Geeks Worldwide, who has pretty direct access to accurate information from Marvel Studios. The source claims that the Fantastic Four will be the first Fox franchise to make their debut in the MCU, with a slated release date of 2022, and actually already has a director put in place. First and foremost, I want to talk about this 2022 release date. Now, in that year, we already have 3 films slated, one in February, one in May, and one in July. It's important to know that all 3 of these films are in the first half of the year, and we do not have a holiday film slated for that particular year. Now, this could mean that Phase 5 is starting with the holiday film, and we'll move forward from there, because I do believe that the dates we've received so far truly are just the dates for Phase 4 movies. And so this does mean that the movies that we already kind of predict or think are going to be part of Phase 4 already would not necessarily disrupt the idea of having this film in 2022, and it could be the launching point for Phase 5. I will also point out here, I don't think moving forward, and I think Marvel realizes that as well, and that's why they stacked those 3 dates at the beginning of the year for 2022, that the 3-film-a-year model is going to work with all these new franchises. Up to this point, Fox and Sony have supplemented these stories by having them as their own franchises and popping out a story every couple of years for them, whereas Marvel is only focused on their characters and the Avengers and the Guardians and all that, but now having to do all that plus X-Men movies, plus Deadpool movies, and the Fantastic Four movies, obviously, as we're talking about in this film, a movie every 4 or 5 years, because it's going to be a lot of characters to squeeze in 3 films a year, just isn't going to work. You're going to see characters having to be recast way too often. So I think we're going to see them moving to much more of a 4, if not 5 movie a year kind of timetable with Phase 5, 6, and therefore after. So I think that is very important to note that there's only 3 films as of now slated for 2022, and those are the first half of the year, and I could definitely see us getting a late summer, early fall, and then a holiday release movie that year as well. Now, Marvel Studios has mentioned that they will not be using the X-Men for at least 5 years. And I think that is the case, and I think that was said very specifically, and many would agree with this. Though I think that they are very careful to use the terminology here of X-Men for 5 years. The Fantastic Four, not X-Men. So we could see them within that 5-year period, and again, the dates that we've received so far only goes 3 years out. But this could be probable and could be problematic. Kevin Feige and the entire Marvel Studio team is very careful about how and what they say to not give away major aspects of their plans for the next few movies. To say that we won't receive an X-Men movie but then give us the Fantastic Four is very much so on trend. However, I do see that they will have to start introducing X-Men characters much more sooner than that 5-year period. For instance, Deadpool 3 will definitely have to come out. It's going to be a film that fans are going to want, and I don't think they're going to wait 5 years for it. So, and plus Ryan Reynolds isn't getting any younger, and when you're playing a character who doesn't age, you kind of have to play that while you can. And several of his characters are X-Men, so he does, of course, include Colossus and includes Teenage Warhead, and those both are X-Men. But I will say that I don't think that we're going to see the full X-Men team established, and that is what he means when he says we won't see X-Men for 5 years. We won't see a standalone X-Men kind of coming together moment until that time period. Until then, I also think it would be a big waste of these characters for us not to kind of start getting the ball rolling of setting that up by introducing some of them into other franchises where they fit really well. For instance, I would love to see a Miss Monroe pop up in Black Panther 2. I think she is much needed. When this whole deal started the ball rolling, back when Black Panther was initially coming out, I was really hoping that it would kind of be enough and far enough along that point that Disney felt confident enough to include Storm in the first Black Panther, but now that it's for sure here, she needs to be there, because after all, Storm is the queen of Wakanda, and so it would be a nice kind of first introduction to her and kind of using the characters that Disney has acquired from Fox already. Peyton Reed is the named director according to the information received. This name might sound familiar to some of you, as he is already part of the Marvel family. Currently, Reed has been the director for the Ant-Man franchise, having directed both Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. So it makes sense that Marvel would turn to someone in the family and who understands the Marvel structure and how it works when moving into the transition of what has been and what will be, and how to introduce new characters into that whole story arc. Reed was also actually considered and pitched to Fox about his story option for the relaunch of the Fantastic Four franchise back with the 2015 film. Ultimately, though, his pitch was not chosen, and Josh Tank was the version that we went with, or they went with, I guess. We didn't have a say in that, but we saw it. Because the pitch has already been done and it's been basically made public knowledge, we have a pretty good idea what a Reed Fantastic Four film would look like. Reed would take Reed Richards, which I can't get over, and his team back to the 60s, which would be a very fitting starting point. The franchise of the Fantastic Four actually launched in 1961 in the comics. The story would focus on them against the Dark Knight. However, it doesn't really kind of specify how he would be used and how that storyline would go. But it is important to note that it would not be going up against Doctor Doom again, and he also has made it very clear that it would not be an origin story. Now, this is kind of an example that we've already received with how Marvel Studios likes to handle re-entering franchises that have been established before but now are being redone within the MCU. Well, we have only one example of this, and that's Spider-Man. So in Spider-Man, we did not see an origin story again, and we also did not see him go up against his kind of usual bad guy that has been done before. Most kind of common for him would be the Green Goblin and the Osborns, and we haven't seen them yet in the Spider-Man franchise. Yet. So likewise, what we're seeing here is that he is not going to be doing an origin story, and he's not going to go up against Doctor Doom right away because there's so many other storylines that don't necessarily involve him. And especially if we're not doing an origin story, we don't really need Doctor Doom there anyways, because that kind of story has already been dealt with, that we've seen now twice before, much like we've seen those stories done twice before with Spider-Man. So I think that really kind of sets it up to be something really different and nice, kind of jumping in that with something we already kind of know enough about. So it's something different from the Fantastic Four, and I think that's really smart to kind of consider that, and I think that is why Reed is a very good choice as the director. The team would not find themselves staying in the 60s, though, because we have a device. Mr. Fantastic would be working on some sort of experiment dealing with the quantum realm, stumbling out on the other end with his team in our current time. This would allow them to kind of seamlessly come into the MCU without dealing with all the side effects, avoiding all the events of Endgame, though I will say they were really missed in the events of Civil War. When the rumors kind of started circulating that Disney might be kind of making a deal with Fox, I was hoping that it would be a wham bam deal, and like we kind of all of a sudden got Spider-Man, I'd hope that we'd have been in time to see the whole sequence of events play out between Sue and Richard, because their storyline is very intense during the events of Civil War. But anyways, I'm digressing and getting off topic. Utilizing the quantum realm would be very on trend for the current MCU. It has played a major role in the last couple movies and the events thereof, so it'd only be smart to continue using it moving forward and not just throw it away and let it be a forgotten relic of the previous saga. Which makes the fact that Reed has been named for the film even much more logical. Not only does he have experience within Marvel and the MCU, he also has the experience of introducing a new franchise into that story arc, like I said, but he also has dealt with the quantum realm very heavily in that franchise that he's already overseen up to this point. This is perhaps why Marvel has gone with him altogether. Not only is he a member of the family, but he knows the best way to introduce them using materials that they already have. But this is where I'm going to kind of deviate from the information that I researched about this news. A lot of people are pointing to the fact that they will be using Spider-Man to introduce the Marvel's Fantastic Four family to the MCU. Now, this makes sense because in the original comics, when Spider-Man was introduced, they used the Fantastic Four to do so. So it's kind of repaying the favor with Spider-Man introducing him now into the films. However, I think they're thinking about the wrong bug here. With Ant-Man and the Wasps, that's hard to say, stories directly dealing with the quantum realm so heavily, it would make much more sense to them to be the pairing to assist the transfer of the Fantastic Four into the MCU. Honestly, with Reed appointed as the director, it makes much more sense on that fact as well, and to the fact that we could potentially be seeing actually an Ant-Man film with him directing being used to introduce the Fantastic Four through the quantum realm. And so I think this is what we're probably going to see here, is much more of a half Ant-Man, half Fantastic Four movie, and then that kind of being what is used to introduce their own franchise within the MCU. And this would also, again, I think, according to my thoughts about what Phase 4 would look like, make much more sense and fit into it if it is going to be part of Phase 4 and not part of Phase 5. Now, so I say I'm going to be on much more of the team of Ant-Man and the Fantastic Four than being on the team of Spider-Man being the MCU's liaison to the Fantastic Four. Now, there is one other kind of Fantastic Four rumor that has come up recently that I want to talk about real quick here and actually just kind of cut off and throw out the window. In a recent interview, David Harbour mentioned this thing in reference to something to do with the new Black Widow movie that'd be coming very soon to the MCU. Of course, everyone jumped onto the quote text and saw the word thing, thinking that he was talking about the Thing and the character from the Fantastic Four, whereas in fact, I think if this was a true slip, he would not have used the Thing, the actual character name. Instead, he used the word this, which I think is a meaningful difference. This Thing meaning the actual movie that he is a part of, and everything that this will introduce to the MCU being something that he's excited to see and think it'll be very significant. As I said in my previous videos, I think this movie will be used to kind of set up the stepping stones to what will be the next major story for the MCU, something that from a previous mission of hers being kind of the key factor moving forward. Again, though, I think this is kind of a side point to actually what I'm talking about, and because we received all this other information, I just want to kind of touch on this real quick too and throw it out the window and say it's garbage. Don't listen to it. I don't think the Thing is going to show up in the Black Widow movie. However, again, with all these rumors, all these leaks, because this is a leak, do take them with a grain of salt. We don't know anything until we know anything from Marvel Studios and Disney, as I always said. And I do actually have some skepticism about this whole leak here. Now, Reed was talking mainly about the previous pitch and all that stuff when he was dealing with Fox, and the fact that he already deals with the MCU and already deals with the quantum realm specifically, which is what he had focused on in this pitch, is kind of a convenient thing for this leak. It could have been one of those instances where someone heard that interview and what he was talking about in relation to that pitch and immediately jumped onto the fact that he was going to be doing this in the MCU, and that's really how these leaks and rumor mills get going, and all that. And so the only reason I kind of think it's a little bit valid is because it does work really well, and I think it could be something that we could see used within Ant-Man or as an independent franchise, and because of the resources that this all came from, I do think it has a little bit more of a validity behind it. But I'd love to know what all of you think on this. Do you think the Fantastic Four are coming soon? Do you believe this leak and all that? So let me know all that down in the comments below on your thoughts about a Fantastic Four film. Do you kind of think that we should have a little bit longer of a break from them, as they have been done twice? All that. Give me your opinions, people. As we do receive more information, I will, of course, be doing more videos on this and everything else, as we are heading into Comic-Con season, and specifically San Diego Comic-Con tends to be a big news drop from Marvel Studios, so expect more videos. And to make sure you get all those, subscribe and set those alerts so you receive notifications when I post. And in the meantime, though, I hope you all have a marvelous rest of the day, and I love you all 3000. Bye, friends!